Shamim, thank you so much for joining me to talk about why you are Arkansas. So let's just dive into it. Why, Shamim Okolloh, do you live in Arkansas?
Well, thank you for having me, Hilary. I moved here about 12 years ago, so in 2010, for to attend graduate school at the Clinton School. It was supposed to be 2-year program, and I moved back out. And over a decade later, I'm still here. And now that I'm a homeowner in Arkansas, and both my children were born in Arkansas, I am happy to call Arkansas home.
So, and I'm so glad you are an Arkansas and you're bringing so much amazingness to the state. And we had the pleasure of going to grad school together. So
Yes.
I got to meet you then. What brought you to the program? What brought you to Arkansas to go to grad school? What was it about the program
I
you did?
think the program was unique because it had the field service hands-on experience of a graduate program. It enabled me to live abroad in Uganda for 10 years as part of it. But then what was attractive to me that I was very blessed and fortunate to have a full scholarship. And so it made the economic sense for me to move to Arkansas.
So you said the plan was to just stay for 2 years, and then
Correct.
where were you planning to go back to? Where did you want to leave and return to after Arkansas?
So I had three options: moving back to Kenya, which is where I was born and raised, moving back to Atlanta, which is where I was living. I went to graduate school at undergrad at Spelman and had lived in Atlanta about 8 years, or moving to kind of like the Washington, D.C. area because I was working, in the nonprofit space, and there was more opportunities for social change type organizations. And so those were my three choices. That
And
were
yet,
the
y-
choices I was exploring.
yeah, and yet you stayed in Arkansas.
I did.
What was it about Arkansas? I mean, you said you had your babies in Arkansas, you're a homeowner, but what was it that really, made you decide, okay, I'm going to stay here?
I think once my children were born and were school age, I had a village. By then I had been here a little bit, but then I started meeting other parents and knew that even if my family as an immigrant was in a whole different continent, there was people I could rely on to pick up, drop off, have shared activities. I remember camping. My first camping experience was with another family. We played soccer together, and they invited us, to Arkadelphia. And so my children, I would never go camping, but there was this family that opened up this experience to them. And there've been, dozens and hundreds more similar to that. And so it opened I guess, my mind and my heart a little bit more to say, okay, there's more to do in Arkansas, but really I had a village, and I just kind of grew my village. And so even if my children have friends, they feel like cousins,
Mhm.
it has a small town feel for me. I'm from a big city, Nairobi, 6 million people. And so it's small enough that I could depend on my neighbors, I can depend on my friends. I can grow my career professionally. It's a small town that people are supportive, but then there's more to explore. And so, like this spring break, we went to Mount Magazine, and that was memorable because we climbed to the highest, point in Arkansas with the children.
Oh.
And so it's just been really great.
So, did you go camping in Arkadelphia?
We did, yes.
Well, what was it
So
like your first camping experience?
I know. So the children slept in the tents. I chickened out and I was in the RV.
Well, you had an RV. That's a good option, though. I feel like
Yeah,
it's
we
always nice.
did. And we did the s'mores, and they were riding bikes. It rained, so we didn't get to fish, but they've gone fishing, and with camps, and it's just been amazing to, like I say, I'm a mix of two cultures. And so I was born and raised in Kenya, but I'm raising American children. And so I have to blend the two cultures and environments together to live in harmony. And so I would never know where to go and what to do and where to feel safe. But then I have people that I can tag along with and ride with them and have these experiences. And so it's been really exciting. But camping, yeah, they pitched the tents and they started the fires and they did all of that. But when I went back to Acadelphia alone this time, we stayed at the state lodge. So
Okay, yeah.
we
Cool.
did, but then we got the passport, for the different
Mhm,
parks.
mhm.
And so when we went to Mount Magazine, we got the passport stamp, and it's my goal to, seek out other state parks within Arkansas, so then the children and I can have places that are close by, 2, 3 hours for a short weekend getaway. Um, so far,
That's
that's
so
been
cool.
a great experience.
That's so cool. I've not been to Mount Magazine and I need to go. So you've reminded me that I need to do that. So you
It's
just
beautiful.
yeah, I know I've heard, or I don't know, I've just heard. So I'd love to check it out. You talked a little bit about how you grew up in Nairobi and you're raising American children and you worked on blending the two cultures. Are there any other examples you have of blending Arkansas culture with Kenyan culture?
And so we're going to Kenya this summer. And I told the children, when we're up country, there'll be cows and they gotta wake up at, 5 o'clock in the morning to milk the cow and
Wow.
just have this different experiences of country living. But I recently kind of made looking to purchase some land in Little Rock, just for like a real estate investment. And across from the property is a community garden in the South End. It's an underserved community here in Little Rock. And, we were talking with a lady and she was in her 70s and she gave me some of the eggs from the farm and the chicken. And, when I went with my kids, they were very excited to see chicken and so I think being able to kind of get back to earth or show that we have some similarities, there's pizza parlors and we can go to movies in Nairobi similar to movies here,
Mm,
but then also there's very much differences in the cooking and family structure and in Kenya. And so I think there's more commonalities than differences, and it's just location, maybe, and a currency and language, but we have more in common than we're not. And so I've been fortunate that I can find things like Indian cuisine and Indian restaurants in Little Rock that have similar cooking, rice and batch cooking with stew to Kenyan cuisine. And I try to expose my children to both sides.
that's so cool. What Indian restaurants do you go to in Little Rock?
They love Star of India,
Oh yeah.
and I like Taj Mahal, and so
Okay.
usually those are our top two.
Very cool. What would you say you love about Arkansas people, Arkansans?
What I like about Arkansans, um, I think Arkansans are proud to be from Arkansas. They know their history. They have a family they can, kind of trace their roots in a mostly small town. And but I think what I have experienced is just people being open and welcoming and inclusive in most of the settings I've been very privileged to be in. And so I try to share a piece of me and teach 1 or 2 words in Swahili, when I'm with a group. But I think just it being welcoming, and where I feel that despite me being from a different culture, being a minority in the state, that I felt welcomed.
Is there a word in Swahili for feeling welcomed or being included?
Feeling welcomed is karibu, so you're
Karibu,
welcome.
karibu. Last question. Do you have any hopes for Arkansas moving forward?
I do. And so, I worked in the food security space for about a decade, and now I am in banking. And I know our statistics are very low in terms of high rates of poverty, especially in the Delta, food insecurity, education. There's a lot of disparities. And I think there isn't as much of a melting pot feel compared to the East Coast. And so I think one of the things, similar to how I am proud to say I was born and raised in Nairobi, I want, for there to be a shift and an uplift in economic possibilities for families here in Arkansas, and so that they can have jobs and careers and thrive and build the economy, and so that our children and their children are not having to leave the state so they can come back and thrive, but they can be able to build up and have better outcomes in terms of education and food security and home ownership, for underserved communities. And so there's a lot of work going on in the states, and it's very exciting. But we have a long ways to go compared to our peer states. And so I am hopeful that in a few generations we would be in a better position.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this awesome chat. Thanks so much for taking time with me to talk about why you are Arkansas, why you're living in Arkansas, loving Arkansas, and what you're bringing to the state is so wonderful. So thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.